every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. Can somebody save me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. Can somebody save me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. Can somebody save me, I'm losing every battle.
And here we are. So we're going to get started with today's podcast. So now, welcome everyone to today's podcast. Now, I am really, really excited about today's podcast, let me tell you, because I've actually had the privilege of meeting this young lady just recently, but her story, her determination, the way she's just like doing the best she can with what she has and what she's using going forward in her life is just so amazing. So Lucy I said her name before really well, and now I stuffed it up. So Milkeraitis, she's a 39-year-old. She's a woman who's success in her business. Like, she's a professional worker in the infrastructure business right now, but she's really determined. She's a strong, supportive, sports motivated person. She loves sports. She played basketball for so long, but now she actually coaches women's football. Now, if that doesn't get you, to sit up and listen, I don't know what's going to do that. So welcome, Lucy. Welcome to today's podcast.
Thank you, Grace.
You're welcome. So, Lucy, we know that, like I said, it's just crazy because every time when I look back at your story, it's quite crazy because I look at what you've been through, and then when I look at who you are, it's just like you are such a strong, courageous woman. And I'm not saying that because it has something to do with that journey you went through, but in general. And I think if you have what it takes, you can make anything possible. Am I right to say that?
I would like to think so.
Yeah, I would think so. I definitely would think so, because the thing is, you don't just get into a level in your business and become a sport, become such highly regarded in playing sports and then coaching if you don't have that drive, if you don't have that determination.
Yeah, look, I think that's just something I was born with, I guess. growing up, I've had a pretty significant determination to be successful in whatever I do. So sport especially was something I started when I was young. And I think that just carried on through my working career. So, when you get a bit older, you sort of have to give the sport away and have to find something else to be determined at. So I guess that's where the business sort of stuff came in the last, 10 or so years. So, yeah, I'd like to think I'm pretty determined.
Yeah, good. So if you want to share with either, with our audience that have, that'll viewing us or listening to us, do you want to share a bit about your story? So obviously, like most of us, you've been told those beautiful, not so beautiful, those nasty 3 words: you have cancer. So if you want to sort of touch on what happened, where, where it first started and what you went through.
Yeah, look, it started in early 2015. I was on an overseas holiday with my partner at the time in America. And we'd been out for the day. We'd actually been in Disneyland, and we came home and jumped in the shower and noticed from the light there was a bit of a shadow on my chest, and I thought it was just a dirty mark. So I actually put my hand up to touch it, and it turned out there was a lump there, and it was strange. Like straight away, I sort of knew it was really abnormal. There are lumps in breasts that they're sort of large, and you can tell they're cysts, but this was like a really hard pee, and it was quite close to my sternum. So. Look, straight away, I thought something was wrong. I had 5 weeks left to go of a holiday, so it's quite hard to compartmentalize, I found this, however, I'm on this really exciting holiday. So I kind of put it in the back of my mind and thought I'll get it checked out when I get back. And I did. I went to my GP straight away and look, he said, look, you're young. I was 32 at the time, just turned 32. And he said, look, you're young. It's probably nothing, but, we'll get it scanned anyway. And, look, it was a bit of a whirlwind, I guess. I think everyone has that experience where it happens all pretty fast, but went and had the ultrasound, and you sort of know something's wrong when you're laying there and you're just having a normal ultrasound, typical ultrasound, and sort of 6 or 7 people walk in the room to have a look. So at that point, it was sort of confirmed to me that there was something going on there. And in that appointment, then I had to have some other tests. I had to have an MRI and a mammogram. And so it turned out to be something small from an ultrasound just on one side, to have, scans on both sides and be in that clinic for a good few hours. Obviously then, you get the results, and it was a couple of days later when I went and saw my GP, and he said, look, yes, you've got something in the right side, which you felt, but there's also something in the left side that we need to get looked at. And he sent me off to a specialist. Now, this happened within a week. So I think I saw my GP on the Friday, had the scans maybe on Monday. By the Wednesday, I was going to see a specialist, I think, on the Friday. So it all happened really, really fast. I'm very lucky. I did have private health insurance and had some quite good contacts in the medical professional world. So I was very lucky that I got sent to a specialist and gone in very quickly. But straight away when we went and saw her, she put the scans up on the wall and said, look, this doesn't look very nice. We need to do a biopsy. So that was the next step. So in we go. A couple of days later to get a biopsy. And as I said before, they had found lumps in both sides. So they did biopsies, which again, it's something, when you're 32, you don't think of cancer. You don't think of what other people have gone through unless you've witnessed it yourself. So having a biopsy to me was pretty scary. And because mine was quite high in my sternum, it was pretty intrusive, having a biopsy, having to get through a breastplate. It was scary. And you're in there for a good hour and they're taking samples and you're thinking, what are they finding? But we got through that, had the biopsy, and a couple of days later, my specialist rang and said, look, it's pretty good news, actually. There's some abnormalities in there. There's some abnormal cells. However, it hasn't progressed to cancer yet. And she said, but it's aggressive and we want to get that little lump out just in case it does develop into something. So, look, that was such a relief. We'd gone through this sort of week and a half, 2 weeks of absolute hell, and to get those sort of results was fantastic. But she said, I want to get it out pretty quickly. So the next week I was in surgery having that lump removed.
So when you say the lump removed, are you talking about the lump around your sternum or the one on the other breast?
The one on the other side was abnormal, but it wasn't as abnormal as the one on the right. So the one on the right-hand side was the aggressive-looking, ugly type of thing that they wanted to get out of my system. The left one just looked like a cyst.
Right, okay.
So, I went the next week and had the lump taken out, and you're a bit relieved, but you don't really know that lump's going to get sent off to pathology after you have it removed. So you've sort of got you've had these high and low emotions for 2 weeks, and then you sort of get the lump out, and that was great. That was all fine. I had that out on Wednesday, and the specialist said, look, I've got to send it off, but you've had your biopsy. It should be fine. But on a Friday afternoon, I was out walking the dog, and she called and she said, look, I'm really sorry, but it's actually cancer. The biopsy didn't pick up, what it should have. And on the other side of the tumor, it was cancer. So that was on the Friday afternoon. And on the Monday morning, I was in at the specialist at 8:30 in the morning, looked to get the next steps. And I guess that weekend was pretty horrific. It was, you go from these highs of lows. I do have it. I don't have it. Now I do have it. It was pretty testing. And, it was, I think for me, it wasn't all that testing. I think because when I first felt it, I knew something was wrong. So I'd already recited to the fact that something I thought was wrong. But I guess my family and friends that were with me through that little journey, that was hard on them to take, because we'd sort of got the all clear. And then it turns out we didn't get the all clear. So, going into the specialist on the Monday morning, and look, she was fantastic, my specialist, and so grateful to have her care. But, you go in there not expecting, you just don't know. If you've never been through this before, you're going into this appointment thinking, what are they going to say? Are they going to say, I'm terminal, I'm going to die, or is it fine, or what are they going to do? So you sort of, the whole weekend, I don't think I slept, because it's the unknown. It's the fear of the unknown. And I guess over that weekend, you try and look up things, but when you look up things, it
makes it worse.
Not healthy either. Look, we got to the appointment, and I took my mother and my partner with me at the time, and I guess when you walk in, you're so charged with emotion, you're really not paying any attention to what's being said. And I know people hear that when you do get diagnosed with cancer, that's all they hear is you've got cancer, and they tune out for the rest of it. So I think in that sense, I'm really grateful that I had my mum there, because she was asking questions that I hadn't even thought of.
Beautiful.
But the specialist said, I've got a few options for you. Look, I think it was stage 2B or 3, but they didn't really know at that point because they hadn't done any other tests. However, the tumor that they'd found was a hormonal fed tumor, and it was quite aggressive. And, that week she said, look, the first thing we need to do is we need to have, a PET scan, a bone scan, a brain scan, a chest x-ray, all that sort of stuff to see if it had spread. And I hadn't even thought of that. Like, I didn't even know that was going to happen. And then after we're going to get those results, then I was going to get the options of what we needed to do. So that was probably the worst week I went through, I think, when, you're laying in a scanning machine for 2 hours and there's dead silence and there's people analyzing your body and you're just laying there just not knowing what's going on was something I'd never been through before. And it was scary, and it's something you're really not prepared for. I mean, I found that lump probably 3 weeks before that all started to happen. And you've got other things going on in your life. Like, I work full time. I'm a manager. Like, what, you just had to put all that on hold. And so we went through all that. And that, as I said before, that was probably the worst time, waiting for all those results to be compiled and come up with a plan of action. And luckily enough, for me, it hadn't spread. It hadn't gone anywhere else. It had just gone internally into my right breast. So I was really lucky. It had spread to a little lymph node in my breast, but it hadn't spread anywhere else. And then we could come up with a plan of attack. So the plan of attack was I had a couple of options. The first being just to get more of that lump removed, some tissue all around it and anywhere where it had spread in that breast, followed by some radiology and some potential chemotherapy. But also because mum was hormone fed, they didn't think that chemo was probably the best option. That probably wouldn't have killed it away, because still my hormones would have been feeding this cancer. So, that's stuff you don't think of. You just think cancer's cancer. You don't understand where it comes from or what's feeding it. And in my case, it was fed by estrogen. So I'm a female. I produce estrogen. How am I going to stop that? It's going to keep growing. So that was the first option. The second option was to have the whole right breast removed, followed up with some radiology and then some hormone therapy. And the third option was to have a double mastectomy. Now, with the hormone therapy. Now, the specialist was great. She gave me time to think, and she laid out all the cards on the table and explained sort of every scenario. But the thing that rang in my ear was, you're very young. We don't know why you've got it. And there's a lot of like women at your age that it does come back. So if you weren't to have both off, there is a risk that it could come back in a year or 2 years or so look, the decision was at that time was pretty easy for me. I was just straight away, let's have a double mastectomy, let's get it out, let's stop it from coming back. I did not want to go through that again. So at that time, I thought that was the best option, and obviously spoken to some family and friends, and we decided that was the best way to go. And same thing, you don't think about the consequences of your decisions at that point because you've just been told you've got cancer. You just want to get rid of it. You just need it out of your body. And I just did not want it to come back. I wanted to get rid of every opportunity of it coming back. So that was the decision I made. And I don't regret my decision at all. It was the right decision to make. However, I guess, and look, that was, I think, on the Friday. And again, I was booked in on the Wednesday to have that operation. Now, there's not a lot of literature out there or people talking about what a double mastectomy is.
Do you want to sort of explain to people what's actually involved? Well, because that's not, I guess, a matter of just going under the knife. There's more to it.
No, it's really not. And I mean, the first question my mum asked when we decided to take this route was, what do they do with your nipples? Do they take your nipples? Now, I'd never even thought of that. And she's like, it's breast tissue. They go. And I'm like, hang on. What? Hang on. Am I going to have no nipples? How does that going to work? So, luckily I didn't think I was going to have kids, but I hadn't even asked that question. Like, what happens if I did want to have kids? And then I would think, hang on, how am I going to breastfeed? So there's that, because I was young, it's probably not something that's spoken about because a lot of women that have a double mastectomy are in their 50s. So they've already had children and they've gone through that process where I hadn't even thought of that. So there's a couple of questions we asked previous, but there wasn't really a lot of detail about the surgery. And look, as I've said before, I've played a lot of sports. I've had heaps of surgeries, ankle reconstructions, leg surgeries, fingers, so many surgeries. And I just thought it was just going to be another, we'll just tick this box and we'll go on. It turned out it was a pretty horrific surgery. It was big. And I had the surgery but you just don't really, you sort of, look, my specialists and my surgeons were great, but I don't think I comprehended how big the surgery was going to be. I'd been through surgery before. I'll be fine. I've got another, but it did take the wind out of me. It was a pretty significant process. And I guess because I was quite sporty and athletic, my breast tissue, I had lots of I had some quite large pectoral muscles, and with a double mastectomy, they have to cut through all that to get all the breast tissue out. And I just didn't comprehend. You think when you have a mastectomy, they just sort of cut your breasts off. Well, it's actually not that. There's lots of nerves. Your thoracic outlets around there. So there's lots of nerves around your throat and your neck, which they have to be careful of, but also they have to go in pretty deep to make sure that they've got rid of all the breast tissue. Now, I sort of woke up from the surgery. I think it was 3 to 4 hours, and it was horrific. I can't. I just didn't expect it to be that bad. I mean, I don't want to be out there to scare people, but I think it's important for women to know that it's a pretty big surgery. And I guess, the other thing they did for me was, because I was young and I was going to have a reconstruction, was when they did the mastectomy, at the same time, the plastic surgeon put a chest expander in. And what that does is it's a metal contraption that goes in your chest, and it keeps your skin stretched and your muscles stretched. So when they do a reconstruction and put implants back in, they don't have to stretch your skin. So I woke up, obviously with a concave chest, but it was like almost alien-like. Like there was a metal contraption in my chest. I'm like, what is this? You just didn't think of it, but you don't even think of, because it's around your core and it's around your pecs. When you go to move, you can't move. That's all been cut, and you couldn't. Things like I didn't even know I wouldn't be able to lift my arms up because your pec muscles have been, disrupted and cut. So I couldn't lift my arms. I couldn't move, and it was a week in hospital, which was pretty traumatic. I'm lucky I had some great nurses and that were shoving painkillers down my throat so I could get through it. But it was pretty full on.
With that, having said that, just if I can ask, because I'm like a I'm like a C-D cup sort of chick.
Yep.
So when, if you don't mind me asking, what size were you? And if you're still the same size, I'm not sure, but what size were you prior to
I was
getting?
just on a C.
Okay,
So I
yeah.
it's just on a C.
Mhm.
And look, that's again, you've got this cancer going on, but yet you're being asked. Luckily, I didn't get to be asked that time of what size I wanted to be afterwards. You know, they put the expander in and they can expand it to any size that you want. You have the implant discussion sort of 6 months later. So
Yeah.
that's something I didn't have to think about then. It was more just recovering from the surgery and getting better. And I mean, things you don't think of, you have, because you can't move your arms, you know, you can't do normal things. So you can't, it's really hard just to get up and go to the toilet. But because you're attached to so many machines and you have drainage tubes and all that sort of stuff, I was really lucky. I was at Ringwood Private Hospital, and who was fantastic care. But there was retired ladies that were making shoulder bags because you couldn't carry things in your hands. You couldn't do anything. They were making bags where, you know, you had a shoulder bag, and you could put in a little pouch, you could put your drainage bag so they wouldn't pull on your wounds. So, you know, there's just all this other stuff you just didn't know. And I really wish that probably I would have known a little bit more before the surgery, because I think then I would have been able to prepare a little bit better, just for things I was unaware of. And look, it did take a bit of time to recover from that surgery, but also then you've got, you know, they've taken all your breast tissue. So because of my previous experience, they've taken a lump out and it was all fine. You know, you're trying to recover from this quite large surgery, but then you're thinking, well, they've taken all my breast tissue away. What are they going to find now? So you're sort of laying in a hospital bed trying to recover, but also thinking, well, what are they going to find now? You know, they found something last time. They're going to find something this time. So there was a bit of a wait until the results came back that it was all clear and it only had spread within that one breast. And then you get to see the rest of your cancer team, I guess, which was I got a fantastic cancer nurse who was with me for the next sort of 12 months. I met my oncologist for the first time, who, you know, now that the surgery is done, but there still has to be treatment. As I said before, I had a hormone-fed cancer. So we had to work on what we're going to do to treat it so it wouldn't come back. So there's all that happens in the first couple of weeks, and then you go home and your life has changed. You know, you can't do, you know, this was probably a couple of months recovery for the mastectomy, just to get movement back and to be able to breathe deeply. You know, you couldn't get out of breath because you couldn't get, you know, your chest was so tight and sore, and you had this metal contraption in your chest as well, so you couldn't sleep on your side, you couldn't sleep on your tummy, you had to sleep on your back, and things just changed within an instant. And I just wasn't prepared for that. You know, and with the expander that you had in, I had to go every fortnight to see the specialist to have saline injected into that chest expander so it would stretch everything out. And that's something I had not had any information on. Look, my surgeon was great. She was telling me about it, but before that, I didn't think of that. Well, what? You put a metal contraption in my chest? And then I have to go every week to have injections into it to expand it, and that's sore because, you know, you've got open wounds and ripped muscles. So a lot of people say I've had a double mastectomy, but it's not just getting a knife and just chopping them off. There's a lot more to it. So that's a bit about my story. So then I met the oncologist, you know, recovering from the surgery, and met the oncologist, and we decided, you know, that because it was the hormone-fed cancer, I don't know if any of you have heard, but tamoxifen is an estrogen blocker. And that was the decision we made to go down to, you know, to reduce the chance of it coming back. However, it does has a little bit of a few side effects, you know, an ovarian, a cervical. However, I guess I weighed up the options to think, well, no, I think I should do this just to prevent it from coming back, whether the risks are high or not of other cancers. And look, and there was also a bit of study of why I got it. No one understood why I got it at 32. There was a little bit of breast cancer in my family. My dad's mum had breast cancer. So straight away we did the BRCA testing and some genetic testing. I'm not BRCA. I didn't have any genetic makeup that would cause the breast cancer. And I really wanted to find that out because I've got a sister and a niece. So I really wanted to make sure that it wasn't a family. So for me, we were going through the treatment options, we were going through how I got it, and it just all combined together. So all you're thinking about all the time is cancer. There's nothing else. And you're trying to move on with your life, but unfortunately, you're in appointments, you're in 3 different appointments every week, and you're trying to go back to work, and you're trying to, have a relationship, you're trying to just move on, and it's really difficult to. And look, mine was only, stage sort of 3. It was early. It wasn't, I'm really, really lucky that we caught it early. And I can't imagine what it would be like for people that it's spread. It does take over your life. It's all consuming, and it does force you to think differently. I was moving up the corporate ladder, and had a pretty, look, I wouldn't say I was an arrogant person. I just had some drivers that I didn't even stop and, how people say stop and smell the roses or look at what you've got and be grateful for all that. I didn't have time to do that. I was busy. I was playing sport. I was moving up the corporate ladder. I didn't stop to think. You think you're immortal at that age. You don't think there's going to be a bump in the road. And when you get stopped in your tracks like that, it does force you to think what's important and what am I doing with my life. And when you face mortality and it's come out of nowhere, it does. It changes your whole perspective on life.
Absolutely. That's what I mean. It's just crazy how you just said the story, because the thing is, people see the physical aspect, but it's the mental side as well. See, that's the thing that people don't actually realize. It's the mental side behind it. It's not just a matter of, okay, let's get this thing out and, okay, be done with it. And, and like you said, it makes you really think about a lot of things in life. But what happens is we also get so caught up with what we're going through that it's that or nothing, that then when you step back and sit down for the first time in a long time, that's when other shit starts coming up.
Yeah, and that happened to me pretty hard, I guess. As I said before, as you just touched on, you go through the I just want to get the cancer out. I just want to have it gone and finished and move on. Now, as we've discussed, I'm pretty driven, and I just wanted my life to get back to normal. Yeah. And I just tried to bury it so deeply that it wouldn't come up again. And look, when you're going through it, you have all these emotions. You have anger, you have the why me, you have the I'm going to give up, you have all that sort of stuff. But when you search, so I think after I had the mastectomy and I'd started going on tamoxifen, it was 6 months until I had my implants. And I sort of thought, well, that's the date. Once that happens, I'm moving on. I'm done with all this crap. I don't want to think about cancer again. Yes, I'll be on tamoxifen for the next 5 years. Yes, it had put me into early menopause. There was some symptoms there that, I shouldn't have been going through at 32. I was going through some menopausal symptoms at that time, and it had an effect on my emotion. But also I just thought, okay, once that November, I think I had the implants in late October, and my double mastectomy was in March. So it's 6 months. So I just had that date in mind thinking, once that implant is done, I'm done with cancer. It is finished. Yes, I have to go and see my oncologist every 3 months and have a blood test and have it checked up. But I wanted to bury it so far under the carpet. I wanted to move on. And the thing I didn't acknowledge was the emotional stuff that had happened in the background. I just wanted to get back to work. I just didn't want to deal with it. I just thought, I've beat it. It's finished. And I really ignored the fact it was a really large traumatic experience in my life. And I think I went to a couple of breast cancer groups where, you'd go and talk with other women that were going through the same thing, but it just wasn't for me. They was, I'm not, everyone deals with this differently, but I found it really uncomfortable in those groups. They were, stuck in the I'm a survivor, and they wanted to build their whole life around this cancer. And I wanted to get the hell out of, I did not want to deal with it. I didn't want to do that. Yeah. So for me, I just, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to that group. I'm not reading that book. I just want to piss it off as fast as I can. And it wasn't until I'd had the reconstructive surgery that I'd sort of some big stuff had happened, and I still didn't want to acknowledge it. I still just wanted to go back to work and forget about it and not interested. And it probably wasn't till about a year after that, something was going on. I wasn't me anymore. There was something in the background that was just, I was angry. I was, I'd shut myself off from a lot of my friends, and I became not a very nice person, and I didn't know what it was, and something was building inside, but I just ignored it. I've been through stuff in my life. I've had some stuff in my childhood which wasn't great, and you just bury that shit away and move on. No, I'm going to work. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to, make $1 million. I don't care about this shit. I'll move on. Yeah. And look, within that time, in that 6 months when I had my reconstruction, my personal relationship had ended. I found that, I'd realized it wasn't the right path for me. Some friendships had ended, and I just shut off from everyone. And even my sport was a huge part of my life, but I've just had this surgery. I can't play sport. I can't even move my arms. Like, how am I going to have an outlet? And I think I just threw myself into work, and I don't know. I just wanted to move as far past as I could, and I did not deal with the emotional side of having breast cancer and having an absolute aesthetic change to my body as being a woman. 6 months ago, I had breasts and nipples. Now I don't. I have mounds on my chest which have no nipples, which feel like they're just rocks pasted on my chest, which every morning I have a shower and I have a daily reminder of what I've gone through. And I just did not acknowledge it at all until sort of a year later when I started sort of dating. But what do you say? Just in case something happens, by the way, I've got fake boobs, like, that have no nipples. Like, for a woman of that age,
absolutely,
you don't think about that stuff, and because a lot of the people I dated or who I was in a relationship, it's no big deal. It's no big deal, but it is. It is. And for me, I think I kept trying to move on and just kept trying to, and I don't know. I just moved past. I tried to move past it and didn't acknowledge this massive thing had happened. And it was a couple of years later when I was working 12 hours a day trying to be the brilliant thing I thought I was supposed to be. And I was driving to work one day, and there's lots of stuff going on in my life other than the breast cancer. I was in a relationship a couple of years later which wasn't healthy. I was trying to get back into football, so I was getting frustrated the fact that I couldn't do as much as I used to. Work was stressful. I had some pretty stressful stuff happen at work, and everything was coming to a bit of a head. And I remember driving to work one day, and I'd stopped at some traffic lights, and normal, having a coffee while I was driving, off we go. And the lights went green, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I'd forgotten how to drive. Like, I didn't know that the lights went green, and that meant me put my foot on the accelerator. I didn't know where I was. I'd sort of stopped and went, oh, I don't know what's happening here. And luckily enough, there was a car behind me, and the guy got out and said, first of all, he sort of said, why aren't you going? And he must have got a look on my face. Like, it was like I'd had a stroke. So I called a friend, and they took me to the hospital, and it was like I'd lost my memory. Like, it was just like it was like I'd had a stroke. I didn't know where I was, what I was doing. I was angry. I was I was talking in tongues, like not tongues, but I was confused. And it was funny. They sort of when I went to the hospital, they sort of contributed to the fact that that weekend I'd actually been knocked out playing football, and I'd been concussed a few times, which is the way I play sport. And the doctors sort of thought, well, maybe it's something to do with the concussion. Maybe you've got an onset, a late onset of concussion, and you've fainted or something's happened. And luckily enough, I went to a private hospital, and they did some tests and could still see I wasn't right. I was sitting in a hospital bed, and I had my partner in there that wasn't healthy for me at that time. I had my family in there. They were yelling at each other, and I was thinking, what's going on? It's like I'd lost. Something wasn't working. Something had broken. And it scared the shit out of me because I couldn't speak. I couldn't remember words. I couldn't. It's like I didn't know what was going on, but it turns out I had a breakdown. And I think it was a little bit from the concussion from football, but it was also the stuff that I'd ignored for the past 20 years that had caught up with me. And it's like my body had just said, nah, you're a dickhead. If you're not going to stop, I'm going to keep banging on your door. If you're not going to stop and acknowledge what's happening and acknowledge not just the breast cancer trauma, but all the other toxic stuff that's happening in your life, if you're not going to deal with that, I'm going to smack you over the head with a bloody crowbar so you actually acknowledge what's happening. So from there, I got admitted to a private facility for 2 weeks to go and figure this out. And it's something I love being me. I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, sorry, but I'm not sick. What is this crap? Like, no, there's something wrong with my brain. It's not mental. What are you talking about? I love being me. I love my life. Turns out I didn't. Turns out I just the whole my whole life, I think I've suppressed a lot of stuff, and the breast cancer stuff was another thing I suppressed. And at that time, I was suppressing some work stress and some relationship stress. And my body just turned around and said, no, I need to hit you with a sledgehammer. Otherwise, you're not going to survive. Yeah. And look, that 2 weeks in the hospital really, it helped. Yeah. But it was not that, look, this is an awful thing to say, but before that, me and mental health, like I dealt with it a bit with some family and some friends, but I always just thought, oh, come on, you just got to get going. What do you mean you're depressed? Yeah. What do you mean you're anxious? I get it, but just come on, like, well, I'll help you. Yeah, I just didn't probably understand the significance of mental health, and when it hits you like a freight train and you physically can't speak, you can't remember words, you put your toothbrush in the fridge and your brain doesn't work, it's bloody scary. And for me to get to that point, and even when I was in the hospital, I didn't acknowledge it. Even when I was speaking, I spoke to some psychiatrists and some other people, and I'm still going, this is bullshit. What do you mean? This has to do with my concussion. This has to do with something else. This isn't me. I love being me. This isn't nah. So look, it probably took for me to acknowledge there was a problem. It took a really long time. Yeah. And look, I think it was a bit of post-traumatic stress disorder from stuff I'd suppressed when I was younger, the breast cancer stuff, just lots of other stuff in your life that I guess as a sort of athlete when I was growing up, you put all that shit to the side because you just want to win. You don't deal with any of that stuff. And same with my career. I just wanted to win. I just wanted to be the best I could be and beat other people and climb the corporate ladder. So all that other shit, I'll deal with that one day or I'll move on. I don't need to think about that. I'm fine. And that was pretty bloody scary to get to that realization. It's, oh shit, I'm not fine. I'm really not. Something's happened, and I need to acknowledge it. And look, that was that was 3 or 4 years ago that happened. And even now, I still don't believe it. Even now, I'm still trying to work through that happened, and that I have to acknowledge that can happen again. And I'm still going through that journey of working out how I can deal with that. I mean, I still there is still times where I think it was a depression, and there is still post-traumatic stress, and there is still this, but I don't think I've got the silver bullet yet on how to deal with it for myself. There are times when I just want to lock myself away and just be on my own, and that's not healthy. And it's still a struggle for me to really acknowledge that something's happened and there is something going on inside. And it's scary not to know how to fix it. As I said before, I've been a sports person all my life. Broken finger, broken arm, broken ankle. I can fix that. We put some plaster on it. 6 weeks later, it's fixed. Absolutely. With my brain, with your emotions, I guess, you can't just fix that. And and it is there's such a stigma around mental health, and I don't think mine was. Everyone's mental health is different. Mental health, mental illness, and mental health are two completely different things. I mean, mental illness, it's a diagnosis, whereas mental health, everyone has that every day. You're driving your car in the morning and you get stressed because someone cuts you off. So you're put in a shitty mood. That's mental health. So I think I'm still coming to terms with how to deal with my mental health and the best ways around having to deal with stress or situations that come up that, you've got to deal with. But I also think cancer and being an athlete and being so driven, you're a pretty selfish person. You're in your own mind a lot. I know some other athletes they're so tunnel visioned in succeeding that they become really selfish. And that was me. I just wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to have these goals, and that was it. And I think the realization of me going, hang on, I'm not really a nice person. I'm actually not. I'm selfish. I'm self-absorbed. I am just doing what I can to be successful. But I didn't really think about if that was making me happy or not. I was unhappy. I thought that I loved being me because I had the Rolex. I had the good job. I had, I was good at sport. That's all crap. I wasn't happy at all. Like I thought that I was, because that's what externally that I'd put forward. But when I'd go home every night, I'd go, this is shit. I've got all this stuff, but it's not making me feel any better. I'm still shitty. I'm still angry at the world. I'm still striving to find, and when I got to those goals, when I reached those goals of, okay, I'm going to make this much money. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to go on this holiday. I'm going to buy this house. I thought that I'd feel better, but I didn't. So that was probably the realization there where I went, shit, something is wrong, because all this stuff I'm trying to think, I'll feel better when I get here. I'll feel better when I have this. It didn't happen. And that's bloody scary, because you still do that. I still now to this day go, okay, I'm going to feel better after I do this. I'm going to feel better after I have that 6-month consultation with my oncologist. I'm going to feel better because I'm going to get cleared. You don't. And now whether it's the breast cancer that's pushed those thoughts along and brought it to the surface, I think it probably is. I think this was bubbling away for me for a really long time. And I don't really believe in, look, the universe and why things happen, but shit, I got cancer at a time where I think it happened for a reason. And if it didn't happen, what would have happened to me? I wouldn't have stopped. I would have been going full throttle, and something else would have happened, whether I would have hurt other people or myself, or, I would have caused something. I think this cancer happened for me just to wake me up that something wasn't right. And the way I was living my life wasn't right. And I'm still dealing with that today. I'm still working through, well, what is it that I want? What is it that's going to make me happy? And that's a daily thing you've got to think of.
Absolutely.
But I wouldn't have thought that way without the cancer. That question would not come up in my brain if I didn't go through that cancer.
Absolutely. And I know exactly what you mean, because, which is it's just blowing my mind, honestly, because I see the common similarities, and it's the same with myself when you say that, because what happened was, in my case, I was also like, I worked in finance my whole life, I joke because I worked for 3 leading banks of Australia. I used to joke and say I was going to retire at the 4th one. Thank God I didn't. I worked at stock exchanges. I worked at, investment places. So it was all about finance, and I was climbing up as well. But what I realized is I was suppressing who I really was. And if I do this, people are going to, it's like, I'll be approved. If I do this, people will approve me. If I do this, people will approve me. If I do it, if I don't say anything, people will approve me. But it wasn't who I was. And, when we also had the business, with the construction business my husband and I were in, he went off to do his spiritual, traveling and stuff like that. And I was left running a business with 22 staff, and what happened was that was like I was turning more and more against who I really was. And I was putting on a massive brick wall, and life came knocking saying, Grace, actually life came knocking, believe it or not, 3 years before, because what happened was we did a job, and back then also the person didn't pay us the money. And all of a sudden I started feeling a little bit of chest pain, and I took myself to the hospital. And I get to the hospital and I get the blood test done, and I'll never forget, it was a young doctor, and she comes in and says to me, "You're having a heart attack." And I'm like, what? I'm having a heart attack. You're going to give me a heart attack. I'm thinking, holy crap. So what happened was, I'll never forget, the nurse was like, you're not having a heart attack. You're stressed. But that should have been there. In actual fact, it wasn't a heart attack. Thank God for that. But even though she was giving me one, and the thing was, I realized that, hang on a minute, this should have been my wake-up call. But what did I do? Brush it. I don't have time for that. Let's move on. Let's go. Chop, 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 chop. Like the train, steam train, go ahead. Then my husband goes on this spiritual journey, and I'm like, what about me? What about, I was living, and I'll be honest, I was living in his shadow, and he would say, stop living in my shadow. And I'm like, no, but I'm the good wife. I'm the wife that's supposed to be behind you and encouraging you, whatever you want to do, blah, blah, blah. Instead, I was suppressing me. When he left, and it's no news out there because I speak about it openly, we broke. We had a massive crack in our foundation, our marriage, massive. And for the first time, it was like, oh, my God, I need him because he's my oxygen. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, no, hang on a minute. I've got this. Are you serious? Grace, you're running a business with 22 staff. You're doing all the paperwork. You're ordering all the material. You're looking after the clients. Hang on a minute. I don't need you. And I became selfish, because it was all about me. But it wasn't because I wanted to. It was I was protecting myself. You get what I'm saying? We protect ourselves. So we become selfish because life has really, there are times when I think of the judgment put towards myself, and I'm not sure if it's happened to you, where the world thinks you're supposed to be a certain way and you're not. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to prove you damn wrong. I am going to so prove you wrong. So what am I going to do? I'm going to shut you out. I'm going to climb up this corporate ladder. I'm going to get everything I want. And you know what? I don't give a shit. Instead of looking at it and go, you know what? I really don't care what you think of me. Whether I'm someone in a corporate ladder or someone sitting on the beach making seashell, jewelry boxes and selling them, that's me. And it's what, so life was like, Grace, you need to slow the hell down. Your stress levels are up here. You're not dealing with your shit from your past. I talk about it. I was physically, when I say physically, I was beaten by my father till the age of 29. So I didn't deal with all that crap. I didn't deal with any of that. And then what happened was I was hiding it. I was brushing it up. I don't have time for that. The good thing about, when I say the good thing about me when I got diagnosed was the fact that my husband had already started on the journey. So he was starting to say, oh, Grace, your cancer isn't your problem. Your problem runs deeper. You need to get rid of what's deeper. So I started to purge, whatever you want to call it, not physically, but emotionally, purge everything I was suppressing. I forgave my father. I forgave my father 3 years ago. 3 years ago. I'm 49. I forgave him at the age of 46. So I had to do a process that now when it's quite funny because my father is ill at the moment. He's not a healthy man. And just seeing him, he breaks down and cries when he looks at me. But I look at him to say, you know what? It's all good. It's all good. I don't condemn what you've done, but I get it. And you can't do that to me. So I had to go back to that little girl when I was like 5, 6 years old. And I had to tell her, you know what? It's okay. You're going to be okay. But like you said, I wasn't seeing it. So I had to you know what, Grace? I'm giving you a feather. You're not listening. All right, I'm going to give you the crowbar. And that's when I took a massive step back in my life and went, oh, I need to detox a lot of crap out of my life. I need to get rid of a lot of stuff that isn't serving me. Materialistic things, whether it was family, whether it was friends, whether it was my community, I had to get rid of so much because I knew that was going to affect me. Now, when things happen, when I get treated, and it's quite funny because it just happened to me yesterday, I get treated a certain way. I just go, you know what? It is what it is, because I'm at that point where I can deal with it in a better way, where I can look at it brush it off and not suppress it. Because like you said, it doesn't matter. You could have had both your breasts removed, none of your breasts removed. You could have done chemo, radiation, whatever. If you don't deal with your bullshit, it's going to come back. I believe that strongly. So it's a matter of now. The thing is, you're actually ahead of what you think, because realizing is the biggest step. Denial holds you back. But saying, you know what, guys? I need to deal with my shit. That's already the best step forward. When you can get to that, when you knock on that door and you even open it, you've already moved forward. So you get to understand, you know what, life is giving me. I love what you said before. Cancer never defined me. Never. I took cancer like this pen. It's coming with me. I'm going that way. I'm not going to sit here and hold you and cuddle you and caress you. I gave it love. I did give it love, but I didn't sit there and just go, oh, no, poor me. No, look. No, instead I went, you know what? You're coming with me. And like you said, if you have a broken back, God forbid, a broken bone, you know what I mean? You have a broken arm. What do? You just rearrange your day. Okay, you know what? I like to wear that shirt. That shirt's too tight around my plaster. Damn it. I'll just wear this jumper. But guess what? I need to get in the car and I need to go somewhere. You got a broken leg? You're still going to see bands. How many people with broken arms or legs still see bands? They go watch movies. They go do their shopping. They do every day. So that's what I did with mine. I didn't not acknowledge it, but what I did is I went, you don't define me. But this happened for me, not to me. I always say that. I had to sit back and look at the lesson. What do I have to learn? And you know what? I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I'm still learning.
Yeah. Same. I mean, same thing. I mean, I think when you get diagnosed with it, you do think this has happened to me. You do. You go through that shit. Why is this me? Why this happened to me? I'm bloody angry. What have I done to deserve this? Have I absolutely upset so many people in my past that this is some sort of karma revenge shit, and you go through that and I thought I was, with all this sports stuff and I thought I was pretty mentally tough and, nothing ever fazed me. But shit, when I got diagnosed that week of having the test, there was a point where I went, I'm not strong enough to deal with this. I'm really not. I can't. How am I going to get through this? And mine wasn't even, I caught mine early. I was so lucky. But I just went, there was a realization there that I went, oh, wow, I'm really not as strong as I thought I was. That was all bravado and a front. I'm a person that's not going to be able to deal with this. And look, I obviously did. And for that, I'm bloody proud of myself that I did get through it. But shit, there was some stuff that happened along the way that I did not expect. And as you said, I'm still learning. Yeah, I'm going through a process. And look, I've got much healthier relationships in my life now. I'm really lucky. I've got a fantastic partner. And I think it took me to have to look at myself, the selfish, self-motivated, self-driven, materialistic person, to change the way I behave, to have better relationships in my life. And I don't think without cancer I would be at this point. I would still be in toxic relationships. I'd still be doing things that I'd look back on and be resentful for and go, what did you do that for? And have really fake materialistic relationships in my life. And if I hadn't gone through the cancer, that would still be happening. There is no doubt in my mind. I've got to a point now where, I've changed the way I behave and who I am. And, I didn't change. I've just remodeled, I guess. And and I think I had to do that. Otherwise, I would never have been able to have a healthy relationship.
Absolutely.
And look, at what we're talking about relationship, there's something I probably didn't mention before, but when you have breast cancer at 32 and you have your breast removed, and then you go on to a hormone therapy and you go through menopause, there's a big part that you don't get told, and that's a sex part. So obviously when we're women, they're a part of your sexual being, breasts, right? When they get cut off and you have no nipples and you feel like you've just got two tennis balls stuck on your chest, you don't feel sexy at all. I felt deformed and not like a woman anymore. And so you don't feel sexy. But then on the other hand, you're going through this estrogen blocker with this drug that you go through menopause in, and that means that you don't have a libido anymore. That goes. There is physical things that happen. I'm 32. I want to find a partner to be with.
Yeah.
But how do I try and explain, oh yeah, this is me. I'm good at sport and I've got a good job. However, I'm really shit at sex because I don't want to do it because I'm absolutely deformed, and the hormone reaction that's going on in my body makes me want to vomit at the thought of it. And how does a 32-year-old woman go, that's something that you do not get told. And that's something that I'm really passionate about now, because there's still not really a way around it. Yeah, you get some books which say, okay, you can talk to your husband about, well, hang on, I wasn't married. I'm a gay woman, and that's a great book. I can talk to my husband about my no breasts and my estrogen and my no sex drive. Great. That's not going to help me trying to date and find a partner. How the hell is that going to help me? And how embarrassing is that for a woman in their mid-30s having to, try and start a relationship with, I'm deformed, but also here's an added bonus for you. The other stuff doesn't work at the moment either. And that's bloody hard. It's
absolutely,
you're trying to move on from this traumatic event, but shit, every time you go to do something, there is something that you go, oh, bloody cancer. Like, far out. Haven't you given me enough shit? And that's probably something I wanted to talk about today is it's a bit of a taboo subject throughout the breast cancer world, and how you lose your sexuality, not just from a physical perspective, but all well, it is physical because you're going on these hormone drugs that change who you are, but it also has effects on that sort of stuff which you just don't even think of. Like, how am I going to explain that to someone? Like, no, they're not going to believe me. I'm a healthy middle-aged woman, and yet I feel broken. Like, I can't function as I used to. That's bloody awful. And to have the fear of going to a relationship and trying to tell someone that is bloody scary. And I still don't have the answer for it. Yeah, look, I'm getting better, and you deal with it, and and you work out, what works and what doesn't work. And but there's no book out there, and there's no help out there that says, there's therapists, but they haven't been through it. They don't know how you feel when you look in the mirror, and your partner or your husband or your wife or whatever it be might think, it might be telling you, oh, you're gorgeous, but you don't feel it. And not only that, you've got some physical stuff going on that isn't making intimacy easy. And that's hard. Like, it's really hard to go, okay, well, I'm starting. How do I tell you that? How do we work through this? This is bloody embarrassing. I'm a 30-year-old woman that should be, okay to do this stuff, but I can't. And that's something that was a second. I think that was something that it really affected me when I, went to the hospital. That was something that had completely changed. It was, hang on, I used to be this person that was, confident and all that sort of stuff, and dating, but then that just goes, and you lose all that confidence because you're so bloody embarrassed that you're broken. And I don't want to use the word broken, but that's how I felt. I felt like, and I still feel it today. Like, I'm moving on and working through it, but I still feel broken. I'm not the person I used to be. From a sexuality, from a sexuality and confidence perspective, I'm not. And it's hard to talk about because it doesn't get talked about. People have breast cancer, and we go and do the Pink Lady Day, and we have the pink icing on the bloody thing at Baker's Delight, and we think, oh, that's great, but shit, there's all this other stuff that happens with breast cancer, especially, look, it happens, older women, and there's so much information out there about older women, and, in your 50s or your 40s, when you get breast cancer, this is what you deal with. Okay, that's great, because you've got children, you're married, you're in a stable relationship. this sex stuff isn't something you have to think of, or
Yeah.
this body image stuff isn't something you have to think of. Yes, it is. You do think of it.
Yeah.
However, you've had children, or you are married, and you've got that. Whereas I was in a place where I didn't have that. And how was I supposed to, and that's something I wanted, how was I supposed to try and navigate my way around that when the whole person I used to be was gone? And being so embarrassed to talk about it. And I think that's why I guess one of the things I want to talk about today is it's a thing. It's
absolutely it exists.
It is a thing. It's you think people just think you have your breast cut off and you're back to being you, but there's all this other stuff, the hormone therapy, there's all this other stuff that not only has physical, it has physical implications, but it also has emotional ones.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty full on. That's probably one of the things that's an ongoing struggle, I think, because these scars and these tennis balls don't go away. They're here for life.
Yeah.
And whether I'm being selfish and I'm feeling a bit sorry for myself in my own little world, that's going to be there all the time. That's not going to get any better. So you've got to work out how you deal with that.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is too, because what it is, and I see, when I say this, I know you're going to understand, because people look at it and go, oh, well, geez, you're ungrateful. It saved your life. Yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah. All right. I get that. But now what? You know what I mean? And the thing is, you talking about it is the moment someone, God forbid, has an accident, gets an arm amputated, gets a leg amputated, they go through a mental mindset for that. So why isn't this a mental mindset? This is the same thing in that sense. You've just lost the body part. And like you said, and the other thing too I want to touch on as well, is because, I come from a family, my sister is also an openly gay woman. Now, the thing is too, a lot of people don't talk about that. And I'll just touch on that because you mentioned it, because like you said, they talk about, oh yeah, just talk to your husband. Now, I can tell you from a man's point of view, looking at a woman, right? And we'll be honest and let's talk about that, but what about a woman seeing another woman? And people should go, oh, but women should understand each other. You know what? Guess what? Men should understand women too. But if I said to a man, listen, talk to me, and I would love to, talk to a man one day, I might even do that, whose wife has gone through a double mastectomy. How does that change you? And like you said, it's not just the physical aspect. It's the physical one in the sense of the intimacy. It's in the sex drive. It's in the, I want to just rip your clothes off and make love to you and have that drive.
You don't have that anymore when you're on tamoxifen.
There you go. See, and they don't talk about that. So why not say, okay, you know what? All right. Then in that case, when you're on tamoxifen, you don't even have to have your double breast removed, because I know that they have that for, estrogen blockers. So, okay, so now I'm taking this for this problem. It's like, okay, I've taken this for this problem. How do I fix this? I don't know. Next. No. Yeah. How do I fix this? Because this is what's going to get me, because the thing is, we're human beings having a human being experience. We want that intimacy. We want that love. We want that connection in a physical way. And when I say physical, it doesn't mean like just the body and that. Physically, like becoming one with your partner. And the thing is, if you don't actually have that, well, hang on. And like you said, you feel like, God, I'm letting my partner down. I don't have that drive. Don't come near me. Don't touch me. Oh my God. Look, when my husband started making love to me again, even though I had a little bit of my breast and under my armpit and whatever got, operated, it's not that I was ashamed, but it was more like, don't touch me. You're going to break me. Don't touch me. It might burst. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just crazy because you protect yourself. It's an automatic thing. But knowing, like you said, you look down and you go, okay, I don't actually have my own breast. And I get it, and a lot of people, they get nipples tattooed and things like that, but it's not that. You got to get this right. So when you look down, you don't go, oh, I've got 2 tennis balls, to use your quote, 2 tennis balls and some tattooed nipples. You actually go, I'm still a woman. I'm now doing, and like you said, and it's really important women know that no matter what they take, you need to have that drive. You need to have that drive, but because it's important, because like you said, you're a young woman. You're not sitting here at 60, 70, 80 going, yes, I'm with my life partner and we're just in our rocking chairs and we're whatever, watching TV, and we're intimate in a non-physical way, but we're intimate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's bloody hard. Like and what you touched on before is, yeah, you do feel like a failure with your partner because it's something that I've worked through now, and I'm I think I'm getting there, and I'm almost at the end of it, but it's still, you feel like you're failing because everything else in your relationship is great, but there's it's a big part. Let's not sugarcoat it. It is a big part. Otherwise, we just have lots of friends. So it's a huge part. And to acknowledge that there is an issue is hard, and it's embarrassing. And as I said to you before, you just want to move on from this cancer, but it's the gift that keeps on bloody giving sometimes.
Yeah.
You think you've moved on from it, and then you go, shit, my vagina doesn't want to work today. That's fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, cancer. And that's the stuff that you just don't think of. And as you used the analogy before about losing a leg or losing an arm, that's when you do that, you've lost part of yourself, and you have to relearn how to live with that part. And I think with breast cancer or a double mastectomy, you don't think about it like that. You just think, they're not really, you don't use them. They're not an arm or a leg where you use them. So let's just cut them off. But no, there are implications to doing that. And, and when I had the surgery, and I trust me, I don't regret the surgery I had, but I wish I had have thought of it and had a bit more information and really thought about the implications of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's certainly, the aesthetics of it is one thing I hadn't thought of, because you just want to get the cancer out. You don't care. You want to get the cancer out. Don't give a shit. But it's the other stuff. It's the sexual stuff. It's the not feeling like a woman anymore. It's all that stuff that you just, a couple of years down the track, you go, holy shit, I didn't even think of it. And well, I probably did think of it, but like everything else, I wanted to brush under the carpet and go, I'll be bloody right. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's not going to be a deal. Yeah, I'm going to deal with it then. I've got a nice big set of breasts. Wow, but it's not. It's a mental thing. It's a mental thing that needs to be strong. So then, it's like when any woman or any person, really, a man or a woman, you've come out of the shower, you look at yourself in the mirror, and it doesn't matter what size you are. You've got to be able to look at yourself and go, fuck, I love you. You're amazing and you look beautiful. If you don't feel that, that's hard. It's hard.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Especially when you've felt that all your life, especially when you get out of the shower before cancer, and you do. I was an athlete, so I was pretty happy with myself, to be honest. But now I get out of the shower every day and go, you look like an alien. Now, and I still think that. Like, it's bloody awful what I do. Because, and, everyone that looks at it, or my family or my partner, they go, oh, but it looks amazing. Like, but to me, it doesn't. And
it's because it's not happening to them. So they're trying to just tell you. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. Friends and family who really support you. Yeah. They've got nothing. What are they going to say? They've not been through it.
They're not saying look shit, are they?
Yeah. They're not going to go, oh my God, they look like that's two awful. Fake aliens. You know what I mean? No. Yeah. So they're going to tell you stuff so you can hear to you, better yourself. But unless you can say it to yourself, the world, 20 billion, how many people we are around the world, could tell you how amazing and beautiful you look. But unless you feel it, it ain't going to make a difference. No.
And that's look, and I assume that's a daily struggle with lots of women that have mastectomies. And it is. For me, it is a daily struggle. Sometimes you do feel good and you go, oh, yeah, it's okay. But some days it's not. Some days you've got to acknowledge, I'm not happy about this. And they feel different. It's not just they look different, but they feel different.
Of course,
there's numbness, there's pain, there's nerve pain because your nerves have been there's all that sort of stuff that's still ongoing. And like I said to you before, it is the gift that keeps on giving. Am I grateful that I'm still here? Bloody oath I am. I'm bloody lucky that I caught it early, that I got onto it early, that I took the treatment. I'm 7 years now, seven years. What is I? 30 years. 7 years clear now. So I'm off the tamoxifen.
Absolutely.
7 years clear. Couldn't be more grateful.
Yes.
However, And that's how, and you feel guilty. I feel so guilty that I should feel this gratefulness. Like I get angry at myself going, so who cares if you've got tennis ball breasts? You're bloody here. And you feel so guilty that people haven't been that fortunate.
Yeah.
You know, they've succumbed to this disease or they've succumbed to other diseases, and I should feel guilty. So then you don't give the sexual stuff or the aesthetics or the mental stuff, you don't give that anywhere to breathe because you're feeling so guilty that you're alive that others aren't. And you're going, well, so you've only got, you're alive. Who cares? Well, and it's a struggle within yourself going, hang on, you should be feeling grateful, but so you don't acknowledge these problems. And that's more toxic because you're in this you're in this vicious circle of I'm here, so I that person didn't live, so you shouldn't feel sorry for yourself just because you've got tennis ball breasts and you don't want to have sex. Like but it is a thing,
I know. Absolutely.
And that's hard to deal with. It really is, because you are here, a lot of other people aren't.
But the thing is too with that, like I know what you're feeling because I did the same, you know, like when I got cleared of the cancer myself, I had a friend whose mother passed away with cancer. And, you know, I didn't, it's not that I felt, I get what you're saying, feeling guilty. And I thought, oh, you know, she's about to lose her mum from breast cancer. In my case, I went a different route. My downside was fear. Fear had me by the throat. So every time someone would mention that they died, it would just kill me. Even though, like yourself, I was caught early as well. But what happened was then I started getting people going, oh, you know, my friend, oh, no offense, Grace, but my friend died. And it's like, you know what? I'm not your friend. I'm me. This is my journey. I could survive breast cancer and get hit by a truck. This is my journey. So I'm not going to, you know what I mean? So I had to start changing, feeling that guilt, because it's like, you know what? It's not my journey. Because if you and I sat here now and went on the internet, I can find you how many people have died in every minute around the world and how, and it's not breast cancer. So what I'm saying is, people pass away all the time. So I can't still feel guilty because, you know what? I had a lesson. This is my lesson. You know, my mum passed away with uterus cancer. But when I look at her journey, she could have, I'm not saying she could have healed herself, but she could have healed herself how can I describe it? You know, what I'm saying is people who pass away, it's unfortunate, but you know what? I could die from a bus accident. Why isn't that unfortunate? Why isn't that as any unfortunate as breast cancer? You get what I'm saying? So I had to start pulling myself away, saying, you know what, I can't feel guilty. Like, you know, I read on Facebook, hey guys, I've just been told that the cancer is spread all over my body. They're giving me, which I hate, and I'm so glad my surgeon doesn't do this. I've been given a contract. That's what I call it, of 3 months to live, and thanks everyone for your support. And it's like, I can't feel guilty because you know what? I'm thinking, but that's your journey. That could have been my journey, but that's your journey. So what makes us feel guilty is when we don't move forward from what we have. Like I'm not suppressing it, but I'm moving forward. You know, I was given a lesson. I'm going to move forward now. So that's where that guilt of why is it that I survived? Why is it that I got diagnosed like yourself? Why did I get caught early? Early or late? I still got told those 3 nasty words like you did. You have cancer. No one wants to hear that. And yes, like you said, you know, in the beginning, the first thing you think of is, oh my God, I'm going to die. And I remember my surgeon who says to me, women come in here, Grace, and the first thing they tell me when I tell them is, am I going to die? And she's like, I don't know. You can get hit by a car as soon as you walk out. I don't know if you're going to die, which is brilliant. Because even though as a doctor, as a surgeon, she may know, she does not tell them because the mind is much stronger. But the thing is, you shouldn't feel guilt. You should just feel gratitude. Gratitude. You get what I'm saying? I get,
definitely.
You know, I feel bad, but I'm not going to take on that.
Yeah, and that's hard because you do get at least you're still here. And then you think, shit, this whole me worrying about my chest and worrying about what people think and the sex stuff and the emotional breakdown and this, pull your head in. You shouldn't feel sorry for yourself for going through that. So you're in this, I don't know, it's like an emotional struggle where you are grateful for being here, and you are grateful for getting through it and how I caught it early, and you are grateful for all that. But there is some other stuff going on that I need to acknowledge, and I feel guilty for acknowledging that stuff, because everyone just sort of says, yeah, but you're still here. Yeah, but I'm not really. I'm here differently to what I was before. And I feel guilty for acknowledging that. And that's probably something that I've suppressed the last few years, because I have felt guilty. I haven't brought up the sex stuff. I've suppressed that. I haven't brought up the aesthetics and, feel sorry for me because, I've got breasts that aren't my breasts, that don't look like breasts. Like, you feel guilty for saying that because you're so grateful that you're around and people aren't as fortunate as you. But that brings you down, not acknowledging the stuff that's going on. So you do. And that's something that I probably still am struggling with today is there is some stuff that you're left with after a cancer diagnosis. Yeah. But you try and move on from it because you don't want to make the people that are going through it worse feel bad. I don't know. It's strange. And you do get that a lot. You do get but you're still here.
Yeah, of course. Yep, I get told, you're lucky, great. Well, you know what? I am. But don't put what I say is don't put your energy on me. It's not mine. And I don't take that. That's the one thing I don't take on board, because it's like the thing is, I get it. When I lost my mum, I did not go around going, oh, did you survive uterus cancer? Oh, how come you can survive it, but my mum had to die? I'm not going to put that energy on someone else. So when someone says it to me, or the best one is, oh, yeah, but my friend, she was cancer-free for 5 years and then it came back. Or my friend died after 7. You know what? I ain't your friend.
Actually, do you know the most insulting? The most insulting thing is when you've had a double mastectomy and you've sort of got to tell someone and they say, I've had breast implants too.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Really? That's not the same thing.
It's not.
I've had implants. Yeah. No. That is a horrific thing to say to someone that has been forced to have their breast removed and then have implants as a reconstruction. Not that it's very different if someone chooses to get implants to make their breast look better. That is a completely different thing. Yeah. And that drives me bloody insane. If one more person says, oh, how did you find your implants? Because mine were really that's not the same. No. It is not. And I've heard it a few times before, and it hurts. Absolutely. Because you don't want to sit there and go, it's not the same. I didn't make this choice. I didn't make this choice to make me look better. Yeah. That's not it. And it bloody drives me crazy because I think they're trying to do it from somewhere to relate
good
to
point
you.
Of view. They're trying to they're trying to connect with you on a level.
I think they are, but they don't understand how hurtful that really is. And it is. Yeah. It is not the same thing. You have your nipples still and your boobs still work and people can touch them. That is not me. You made this decision. It's people that, and I think they are just trying to be nice about it. They're just trying to say, they're trying to relate and say, this is I've had it too. It's okay. Well, no, you haven't. It's a very different thing. And I've heard it in groups before and with women that are trying to relate to people that have had mastectomies. And it just, for me, it's hurtful. I don't know how it is with others, but for me, I find it really hurtful. And this is something that I would not have chosen. Like that you're choosing to improve the way you look. My mastectomy has made me look not any better. It's made me look 50 times worse in my mind.
Yeah, because it's not just a nice tuck under the breast.
No, it's not.
It's I know.
I just don't understand how they think that is parallel or it is similar.
Yeah.
Because it is not.
See, the thing is too, because my mum had a double mastectomy and I remember helping her, wash and things like that. And it was horrible to see. She never got implants because she was older, but it was even horrible to watch that. Then I have, and I hope she doesn't mind me talking about it, but I have one of my sisters who had implants, cosmetic implants. Yep. And what happened was when mum was diagnosed, we all got told, look, it puts you in a high bracket, but with implants, there is a possibility that we may miss it. So she decided to do a double mastectomy right? She decided to do it. It has nothing to do with cancer, so to speak. She wasn't diagnosed. But she decided to do a double mastectomy and have implants again. Now, I remember going on a holiday with her, and we're putting on these bathers we just purchased, and just again, and I'm being honest here, I remember she's trying to struggle to put in the bathers, and although I was crying because it was a Barbie size, and she's not a big lady, but she's a big girl, but it's like like a kid's size, and she's trying to squeeze in it. But I could see all the scarrings on her breast. Now don't quote me because I didn't take a great look. I can't remember if she still had her nipples or not, but I think she did. But she has no sensation to them. But the scarring left behind, I was like, wow, like you said, that's a big operation. Now, I didn't look at her like disgusted. I was more like, wow, and like you said, looking at yourself in the mirror and getting reminded is where you have to change this, where now I've got a massive tattoo from under my armpit down to my thigh. Do you know how many times I remember I've got it? Because it becomes the norm. You get what I'm trying to say?
That's
when
right.
you're able to now, at the moment for you, it's what we talked about before. It's an open wound. Not that I don't want you to discuss it. What I mean by that is it's something that you're still trying to heal from. When it becomes a scar, it becomes to the point where I go, oh, yeah, that's right. I got a tattoo here. It's not that I don't see it, but I don't connect. Does that make sense? Because you don't connect with it every day.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you don't. And look, I'm really lucky. My scarring's great. My surgeons were fantastic, and they did such a great job. So my scarring's not that bad. It's more the fact that there's lumps in them, and there's air pockets, and there's little crevices. Like, and they're hard. They don't move. There is a positive. If I can wear whatever I want because they're not going to move, and you don't see, when I'm cold, the nipples. That's great. But
whereas if I wear mine without a bra, it'll be down to my ankles.
Exactly. So that's a positive. But but
I know what you mean.
Yeah, there is. It's hard. It's really hard to describe to someone that hasn't had it. It's because it's not just a little surgery. That it's difficult, and I don't want to overplay how bad it was. I don't want to underplay how bad it was. But the stuff that's bad is the stuff that you don't think of. It's the stuff that happens afterwards. And you feel like you've been robbed a little bit, or you feel, and as I said before, you feel guilty because you're still here, but you don't feel like yourself anymore. And it's hard. It's hard to put that together and know how to feel about it, know how to deal with it, because it's I still don't have the answer. I'm still working through it. I'm still trying to work out, okay, I can feel okay about this. And, my partner's really understanding now about what's happened. And I've had to be open with her and talk to her about it. And that was a bloody hard conversation. But, if you're honest and you're trying to work through it and you're trying to, I don't know, there's no silver bullet. There's no answer. There's no book I'm going to read that's going to go, oh, this is fixed. You're fixed now. It's going to be, the women that are going to go through this, it's not going to be something that you're going to just have and you're going to move on. And that's what I thought. And that's where I got caught, was because I just thought the cancer's gone. I'm finished. We move on with life. But unfortunately, that's not reality. You're going to deal with this forever. And however you choose to deal with it, that's everyone's choice. But it is going to be a choice that you're going to have to make forever, because you are going to look at yourself differently than you were before. Like an amputee it's different. Let's not sugarcoat it. It is.
No.
And that's what I when I was going through my journey, I guess what was frustrating me so much was everyone was I know everyone's going to be positive. No one's going to say this is shit house, but everyone was so positive. And me, I'm sitting there going, are you for real? This isn't bloody positive. What, because I'm alive, it's positive? Yeah, that is. But it's going to be okay. Is it? Like, yeah. But now, so even when I'm talking about it now, and I feel like I'm feeling sorry for myself because I've got these little bits of things I've got to work through, but yet I'm still here. So now I'm feeling guilty thinking, shit, I shouldn't feel that way. I shouldn't be feeling sorry for myself. I shouldn't be. But then in the same breath, I'm like, well, I kind of am, because it is different. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I think that's half the problem. We're
touching on that. Yeah. So touching on that though, because a lot of what it is, you know, and I speak to a lot of women, you know, with their families and that, because a lot of families, a lot of people find that they actually disconnect with the families because
Oh,
the
for sure.
families all of a sudden have their opinion, and it's okay to have your opinion. But what they do, it's a difference between having an opinion and throwing it down your throat. But what also it is too, and I make people understand that when someone gets diagnosed with cancer, I can say to you, oh man, you got to be effing joking, right? Because I've seen it, I've felt it, I've been through it. But other people don't know. It's like when you lose someone. What do people go, oh, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. But a lot of people say things, oh, you're going to be fine. You're going to get through this, things like that, because they don't know what else to say. Because believe it or not, they're scared more than you are. They're more scared than what you are. So that's why they answer with those words, because they're like, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. You know what I mean? I was grateful enough to meet a man till the very end. He was given a contract, believe it or not, and his contract expired the same time, right? Which was horrible. But he lived to the fullest. You know what I mean? But I'm sure there were people like they didn't know what to say to him because he was getting to the contract. He was getting to the end of his contract. So what do you say to someone like that? Whereas someone who's been through it, you just, not that you talk around it, but you realize the beauty of it. You realize what you've learnt through it, you know. But for someone else who hasn't been through that, like God forbid, you know, someone who's lost their husband, God, I haven't. So I don't know what to say. So I would probably go, you know what? I have no idea what to say right now. But I get it. I get what you're saying. But the other thing I wanted to touch on as well is because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but did any of your surgeons, and I'm thinking because I know my surgeon now, she's become one of Australia's first surgeons to now do breast what do you call it? She doesn't take away the breast. What they do is they do something else. I don't know exactly what they do, whether they put fat from somewhere else, but she's known to be one of now these surgeons that actually don't remove your breast. She doesn't believe in removing your breast. That's got to be like seriously the last resort, but they do something else. But what I was going to ask about your surgeon, and no disrespect to your surgeon, I'm grateful for what they did for you, is would it have helped if they, or did they show you of what a woman who's just had a double mastectomy looks like?
No, they didn't.
Okay.
So that, look, it's hard.
Would that have helped?
I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe it would have. Maybe
get you prepared.
Maybe not.
You know what I mean? In a way.
I
This is what you know.
I think they don't want to do that because it'll scare the shit out of you. It would. You know, when I woke up from that surgery, having a metal contraption in my chest, I can't. It just looks like you've got it. If someone had showed me that beforehand, I would have been shitting myself, and I was already shitting myself.
Yeah.
So would it have helped? I don't know.
No, that's interesting.
Would they have gone into more? Should they have gone into more detail and told me exactly how I was going to feel? I don't know. I look back on it now and think it would have. I think they don't do that because you're already in such a emotional state and fragile state. They probably don't want to tip you over the edge. I don't know, but I would have, maybe more about the recovery would have been beneficial. That it was going to be pretty sore for a while, and there was things I wasn't going to be able to do for a bit.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to move your arms really, and breathing's going to be really difficult, and you know, all that sort of stuff. But
that should have been said.
I don't know. I probably would have liked to have talked to someone that had gone through it maybe beforehand.
Yes, my point. Yes.
But then would you have, because you're shitting yourself already? I don't know.
But everyone's different.
It's hard. Yeah.
I get, you know, I mean, you and I both haven't had children, so we can't really talk about it. But I guess if I'm about to have a child or you're about to have a child, we're not going to go to each other if we haven't had kids. We would probably go to a lady who's given birth, and she's gonna give us the worst case scenario. Exactly. Oh my God, it's like pushing a watermelon out of your nose or something like that. And we're going to freak out. But at the same time, you sort of get an indication what. And I'm not saying the scarring, but like you said, okay, by the way, I like you, if God forbid, like I always say to people, I hope you never ever have to meet up because you've had it. But if you get diagnosed and you are thinking of going through that, would you like to speak to someone who's had a double mastectomy, because you get the idea of what to possibly expect. Everyone is different. You would say, disclaimer, this is what I went through. However, you could because then what happens is, like you said, that person will go, oh my God, it feels really painful in my chest. Well, oh, that's right. That's because, oh yeah, I remember when Lucy mentioned that. Or, oh my God, why can't I do these certain, oh yeah, I remember Lucy saying that she went, you get what I'm saying? It just helps.
Yeah. And
I think.
I did speak to someone before it through the BCNA or through I can't remember where, but through the Ringwood Private Hospital, they did put me onto someone to give me a call about the surgery, and it was someone that had been through it in the past. But I think they were in the same boat as all the surgical team. They were so positive. She was just like, you're young, you'll be fine, you'll get through it. It's just an operation, you'll be fine in a couple of weeks. That's what I got.
Oh,
so
wow,
I was like,
yeah.
oh shit, this is gonna be a piece of piss.
Yeah.
It turned out it wasn't. So and did I want to hear it was going to be horrific and painful? Probably
Yeah, of
not.
course. No.
But
yeah.
I would have maybe I would have liked to be a bit more prepared for it, because I just went into it thinking it was going to be fine, and it was fine. Look, don't get me wrong, it was fine. I survived. It was okay, but it was pretty painful, and there was lots of stuff I didn't think about or didn't know that was going to come out of that surgery. And I would have probably liked to have known.
Yeah. Well, so having said that, then, like, I'll ask the question then, is there something that you wish you would have known before starting? Like, you not wish, but if you had more information or something about it, would that have helped? Is there something that you think, if only I knew?
I don't think I was that stubborn and confident back then that even if someone had told me that you're going to have body issues after your surgery, I would have laughed it off and said, you're an idiot. What are you talking about? I wouldn't have taken it in. So no matter what anyone probably would have told me, I wouldn't have taken it in back then anyway. So do I wish I'd done things differently? No, I don't. I don't think so. I don't wish that I'd been told anything else. So I just wouldn't have listened. I just would have been like, yeah, that's you because you're soft. Like that. That's what that's what I would have thought.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So no, I don't think so. But maybe if I'd had someone that was my age, because the lady I spoke to was in her 50s, and she was just really positive about it, saying you'll be fine. Maybe I should have gone and had a coffee with someone who was probably my age that said, this is going to be shit. It's going to be shit, but you'll be all right. You'll get through it because you're a tough person, but it's going to be shit. There is going to be a few months where it's going to be awful. You're going to have all these emotions. You're going to be in pain. You're going to see all these different specialists. This is going to happen. You will be okay in the end, but it's going to be 6 months of crap. Like if someone had said that to me and just straight between the eyes, I would have gone, okay, at least I know what I'm in for. Like, whereas all you get going through that sort of thing is you're going to be okay. It's going to be fine. It's kind of not.
No,
You're not fine for a little bit there, and you feel guilty that you're not feeling fine because you're not dying. So
no, I know. But it's trauma. It's a traumatic event. It's a huge event.
Yeah, but the whole thing comes back to it is you do. You feel so guilty because the guilt stuff it's guilty for what you're thinking that you should be dealing with, but you don't want to feel guilty for feeling that way because you're alive. And I think that's part of the problem of not moving on from having cancer, or not moving on, but not dealing with it properly, because you're sort of half pregnant in a way, because you're in limbo all the time because you're going, I am here, but this is shit. I don't know. I'll just bury it for a little bit longer because it'll just go away.
It'll go away?
No, it's not going to go away. And if someone had probably told me that beforehand and said, yeah, look, this is when it's going to be, and someone of my age that was, young and probably was in the same situation as me, not married, not had kids, that would have been probably a bit more beneficial. And someone that had just told me the truth. I mean, not that they weren't telling me the truth, the specialists and all that, they were, but they want to get you through it, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So they want to So they are very positive about lots of things, and I probably wish I'd had someone that was just going to give it to me straight between the eyes and say, yeah, it's not going to be pleasant for a little bit. You will be fine, but it'll be shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said too, it's also that, we tapped on it before, that, the first thing you go through, it's actually true, because they say that women who go, or anyone who goes through cancer, also goes through the levels of grief, where there's anger, resentment, frustration, whatever the elements are. But we tend to go through that. And we all think that, oh no, you only go through grief if you've lost someone, or something or whatever, but it's like, no. You actually go through those emotions. Because I remember being angry. I remember being resentful. I remember, all of this emotion. And then the thing is, you're bombarded by all of this information and you're trying to get a grip yourself. You're like, oh, guys, I'm just trying to get a grip of this, but everyone is trying to help you. I know that they're doing it in their best interest, but sometimes, like you said, it's just a matter of just, you know what, I need to have a break. Give me time out. And I talk about this in another podcast, where life throws curveballs. So you're like, dude, I'm going through this, and you go and throw this at me.
Yeah.
Life does not stop. The world keeps revolving. So you get what I mean? So it's a matter of finding, well, how do I deal with this and have to deal with that? Well, which one's important right now? Which one am I going to put my energy on? You know what? That one there, guess what? I'm going to deal with you after. I've got to deal with this right now. But life is always going to throw a curveball,
Yeah.
Always.
And I think with the grieving process, it's the same thing. When someone said, I think you, with the post-traumatic stress grieving stuff, I was like, what are you talking about? Are you serious? Grieving? What do you mean? Grieving because I've lost my boobs? Who cares?
Yeah.
But I was in that anger stage for about 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, I was bloody angry all the time, and it was consuming me. Like, I was so angry, like angry at work, angry at home, angry at this. And, something small would happen and I would fly off the edge.
Yeah.
And I'd be thinking, but it didn't even, there was no, until I had the bit of a breakdown when my brain stopped working, I didn't even realize I was doing it. Like, I didn't even realize how emotionally draining that anger was and how it was linked to what was going on. Like, I had no self-awareness at all. I was so focused on the day-to-day tasks and doing this and being here at 5 o'clock and doing that report for someone and meeting that budget and doing all that. I just did not, I did not even enter my brain that my emotions were taking over. The anger had become such a problem. I just didn't see it. I really didn't until I sort of sat down and went, holy shit, I've overreacted to some situations. It's embarrassing. Like, I remember when I was having an argument with someone, and this is when I was in the cancer stuff, and before I'd had the mastectomy surgery, and I literally lifted and threw the dining room table. Like, not at them, but just in anger. I put my fist through walls. Like, I've done for small things, because you just you've got this, and that grieving process is true. I always thought it was bullshit. I just thought, whatever, grieving, good on you. Nah, shit. I was stuck in that anger for a really long time, and it was scary the way I was behaving, and overreacting with things was scary. And I'm so glad that I've dealt with a lot of that stuff now. And I don't react that way. Yeah, is there times I get angry now? Shit, yeah, there still is. But at least I recognize it now, and I go, hang on, you're being a dickhead. Come on, you don't need to react like that. So that was one thing it taught me. Cancer taught me to be a little bit more self-aware, because you do recognize stuff that shouldn't. You shouldn't overreact when you've run out of oranges. You shouldn't lose your shit when you've run out of. What's that about? Like, so at least now you recognize when you're going, that emotion doesn't suit, something else is going on, because that emotion for you not having oranges isn't the right emotion.
Absolutely.
There's something else going on in there. So I am thankful that that cancer's taught me that. And should I say cancer's taught me that? I feel like, something else should have taught me that. but it's true. I didn't think of this stuff before I got sick. And I wasn't sick. Cancer sick.
I know. Yeah.
But it takes, like we said before, it takes a sledgehammer to sometimes wake some people up from what they're doing day to day. And if this, and I sure as shit don't want anyone else to go through to get diagnosed with a cancer or to lose a limb or to have a horrific incident for them to have to wake up to themselves. But that's what it took for me. And I don't want other people to go through that. It's sometimes, like, if this helps just one person go, holy shit, I'm living my life not in a way I should be. You know, that's great. They don't have to go through that sledgehammer, you know, life moment where it makes them step in a line.
Absolutely.
For me, it happened, and that's okay. I'm glad it did, because I probably wouldn't be around if it didn't happen. I really don't know what path I would have taken, and if I could have kept living the life that I was living, and that anger, and I don't think I could have.
No, oh my God. Because the thing is, like, it's quite funny because when we look at those stages of grief, you lived in the anger for 4 years. I lived in fear for 2 years. I mean, I was, you know, everything, I was just jumpy, and to the point where my husband just yesterday, because I'm still going through it. Like you said, I recognize it, I'm learning. But like yesterday, my husband said, Grace, for your 50th, can I give you a huge dose of faith? Because I still had that fear, but not as bad as I used to, because every time I'd say, I don't want to be scared, I don't want to feel fear, I kept getting choked to the corner. And I recently did I don't even know what you would call it. I did something with, you know, Anthony Robbins, where he gets you to say, what don't you want? You know, like, you don't say what don't you want, but it's a process like that. And I remember, you know, we had to do this, and it's like, well, what is it? Why don't you want it? What has it done for you? You know, we had to go through all this stuff, but we had to physically and verbally say it, to the point now where if someone, you know, I got to the point where I say to myself, well, hang on, you know what, cancer? I actually said that moment. Like a lot of people say, it takes me 2 years. No, it didn't take you 2 years. It took you 2 years to get to that moment, and then that moment was like quick. But that moment when I had to do that, you know, that little project, I remember thinking, you know what, fear? Get your shit, pack your bags, and get out. I have no time for you in my life. You need to leave right now. And that's how I talk about fear. So fear comes along, you know, likes to come in as a gremlin. And I'm like, what do you want? What do you want? You got no room here. Now, I'm not saying I don't fear. Of course, that's part of reaction. But I was living in fight or flight like that.
Yeah.
Fight or flight like that. What's that going to do? I remember thinking to myself, you know what, Grace? You're going to die of fear before you die of cancer. You know? Yep. So that is also another grieving element. People stay in anxiety for so long. People stay in depression for so long. You know what I mean? And it's a matter of going, you know what, I need to get out of this, because if anything, it's not going to be cancer that will hurt you. It's that anger. It's that fear. It's that anxiety. That is what's going to kill you in the end. Because what happens is, us for women, because like you said, now you've gone through that hormonal change and everything as well. I know for a fact that as soon as I go into, you know, because I'm in perimenopause, my husband thinks it's a joke, but they call it perimenopause. But the thing is, when women stop their period, yes, I get that the levels of having breast cancer comes down, but did you know that the levels of heart attacks rise?
Yeah, that's right.
So the thing is, I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute. I'll get to the point where cancer goes, I'm finished. But then what? I want to say like this, and then I die of a heart attack. Like, what's the purpose? So I had to learn, why am I angry? Why am I fearful? And I realized what's making me fearful. And I realized that I actually had fear for such a long time that it was a little flame. When cancer happened, it was growing, but in the background, because I didn't have time for it. When I finished, it's like I jacked it right up.
Yeah.
Did I get fear from cancer? No, fear was there before, but cancer just brought it out. So like your anger, it's there, it's simmering in the background.
Oh, it was always there. Yep.
And then something happens, and then what happens? It just goes then you don't have time.
Mm.
So it's simmering in the background, but it's boiling more.
Yep.
And then you go, okay, I'll finish with that. Now what? And then it just explodes.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy cow. But you don't realize it. Like you said, it's not that you now when you look at it, you go, oh my God, I was angry at little stupid things. When I was Grace, you were scared. You were scared. Oh, she's got cancer. Oh my God, I'm gonna get it. Oh my God. Oh, okay. I got a sore now. Before cancer, I'd be going, holy cow, what have I done to my shoulder? No, all of a sudden, I think I got cancer. I feel a lump here. I think I got cancer. Okay, I feel a lump in the back of my neck. I think I got cancer. Oh, my arm's twitching. I think I got cancer.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying? Because it was fear that was just throwing me against the wall. But now I look at it and go, oh my God, like this morning I woke up with my sternum's a bit sore, you know, and it's because I have a 4.5 kilo cat that sleeps on me, you know, but you get what I'm saying? I'm not ignoring it. I'm not saying to people ignore it if it gets worse, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. And before you go to the doctor and he's like, oh, Grace, that's what that is. The way you sleep, you just bend yourself in so much that you hurt yourself. You know, maybe do some exercises where you open up your lungs, open up your, you know, or your ribs. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? But what happens is I was like fearful of everything.
Yep.
And I thought, you're going to kill me. And it's the same with anger. If you don't control it, it ends up taking over.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah.
You know? So, wow, this has been exciting. I love it today. So,
I hope it's been enjoyable.
You know, I really thank you. Honestly, I loved hearing your story. I've learned more about you as a person, foremost, and a beautiful, strong woman. And when I say strong, not because it has anything to do with, you know, what you went through, your journey, but as in I feel your character, and it's just amazing. And I really do, you know, love it. And I still want to keep in touch after this for many, many more times, you know, just to reach out, and because, you know, we're not far living.
Yeah, we're not.
So that's pretty good too. And but you know, I really thank you for today. I thank you for sharing, you know, your story. I thank you for opening up about things that people don't discuss as well. You know, and I wish you all the best. But is there anything else you want to say before we leave?
I don't think so. I just thank you for the opportunity, Grace. It's difficult to talk about, but I think it's important to talk about and to get it out there. And look, if anyone's going through it, or they're starting to go through it, or, you know, just if this helps just a little bit, or, you know, it's not just because I dealt with it in some ways, that doesn't mean it's the right way to deal with things. But just if you have some awareness about different things that happen during the cancer phase, and it's not just about the cancer, it's about other stuff that cancer gives you. I think, I'm really appreciative that you've given the ability, you know, the opportunity to speak about that today. And if that just helps someone, that would be fantastic. So, much appreciated, Grace. It was lovely to talk, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we will. I'm sure there's so much more we can discuss.
I'm sure there is.
Again. All right. And I'll talk to you soon. So thanks.
Great.
And thanks to everyone. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's episode, and I look forward to having you guys listen in on the next one. And like always, I wish you so much love and light. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.